Hi guys, Elaine here, the Animal Reiki Lady. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Thanks for joining me. It is time for another reading. Not quite sure why we're calling them readings, as I knock everything over. I don't know where that word came from, but it's more of a sharing of information. Our animal companions who cross to the other side have so much to teach us and so much to share with us. And I love being able to connect with them. Thank you for giving me permission to be able to connect with them. Today's reading is going to be for a Chihuahua. I don't know his name. I know that he was 16 years old when he crossed, and he just crossed this week. And so this reading is for his human companion, Jamie, and I can't wait to share this really cool information that he shared with me. And so first, for those of you who may be catching one of my videos for the very first time, my name is Elaine. I'm an Animal Reiki Master, and I do all kinds of things with that, but what I really do is help people make deep spiritual healing connections with the animals in their life, both here and animals awaiting at the Rainbow Bridge. And as part of that, animals have started to come through to me with intuitive information. They share things with me, and I am compelled to share them with you. Ever since my Lucy crossed in August of 2020, that's when the door opened wide for me. She was the very first animal who really deeply connected with me after crossing, and she opened up all kinds of doors for me, and now I share with you. So I'm not in my usual environment, if you guys can see here, and there's a reason why I'm sharing that with you. That's the little exercise bike. I am house sitting and pet sitting. I love to do that. I love to be able to share my time with animals of all kinds. So I was over here on the exercise bike. I was not actually officially meditating this morning, but it did inspire me to share with you guys on the next video 5 ways that you can connect with your animal companion on the other side, because it doesn't have to be in deep spiritual meditation. I was riding the exercise bike when all of a sudden I got all this insight because I was in the zone, and that's one of the ways to get there. When you can quiet all the chatter in your mind and just get into that place where you're really focused, they use that like a little window. They crack in the door, they open it wide, and they share. So this is what I got today, and it was really, really awesome. So of course I have scrawled my notes. That's another way, automatic writing. I have, as soon as I started to receive the message, I started to write it all down. So the first thing, this little Chihuahua's human companion is feeling very, very guilty for having fallen asleep when he crossed, and feeling that he was alone, and that she wanted to be there with him when he crossed. And did he suffer? She felt that he was in suffering and terrified because he was alone and she had fallen asleep when he crossed. So I said, I'm going to share first of all the story of my Winston. And I meant to put my little necklace on, but I was working out when this came to me, so that's that. Winston was my senior. Winston was a rescue who was dropped at my door because he was very, very sick. And his medical attention was going to be very expensive, and I assume that the person who dumped him did so because they didn't have the financial means to care for him. And I will not ever judge anybody. I am so grateful that Winston came into my life and that I was able to offer him care. So Winston came into my life when he was a little King Charles Cavalier, and I found him roaming around our property at the top of a mountain in the Rocky Mountains, where my husband and I were living for a few years. We were full-time RVers and planted our RV at the top of the mountain just to live in the experience of being in the wild, of being in the woods with just us and the animals and the trees, and it was beautiful. And Winston showed up one day on my doorstep, and when I took him, there's a reason why I'm telling you this story. When I took him in, he was dirty. He was covered in pollen, like it was early in May, and all the pollen was around, and he was covered in dirt and pollen, and he was physically in a bad way. I could see this. I took him to see if he was microchipped. No, he was wearing no collar. No. Took him to my veterinarian, who said he's in rough shape. He had a grade 6 heart murmur, as well as being deaf and congestive heart failure. And so we got him some medication, but the veterinarian said he's probably too far gone. and I should just take him home, give him some love, give him a cheeseburger, let him cross on his own if that was his choice. But anyway, just to care for him. So I brought him home, gave him the cheeseburger, and I still joke with my vet that I swear it was the cheeseburger that did the trick, because Winston stuck around for 2.5 years after that. They figured he was about 10 or 11 years old, and he stayed with me for 2.5 years, and he was my soulmate. I bring in dogs of all kinds. I have always had a pack of dogs around me. But Winston really had that special place in my heart. He was the one who connected with me like my little buddy, and he went everywhere with me, and he was a little snuggle bug. And I was certain that he and I had such a connection that when it came time for him to cross, that I had this visual in my mind that he would cross in my lap. I'd be holding him gently, comforting him, allowing him to have the smoothest transition. I should have mentioned to grab a tissue. Had the smoothest transition, and it would be a beautiful, peaceful crossing. And I was certain that was the deal we had made. And this is what I do, right? So I work with animals all the time at the time of crossing. It is a wonderful experience for me to be able to help them to transition and to be able to help their human companions create this space of peace and calm and love during their transition. Notice I use the word transition. That's a topic for another day, just to change the narrative and our whole perspective about death. But that's not what happened with Winston. I went to work, and I work at a place where I do this. I went to work, and I was only gone for a couple of hours, and I came home, and Winston was sleeping on the floor in front of the TV. And my husband was eating lunch. He was sitting in a chair. He had a plate full of nachos, and he's watching TV while Winston is sleeping and eating the nachos. No, I should have definitely grabbed a tissue myself. Okay, I do have a little bit here. So it turned out that Winston was not sleeping. I came home from work. He was sleeping at the TV. My husband's eating his lunch. I go about my business getting changed, getting ready for the rest of my Saturday. I remember clearly that it was a Saturday. I came back into the room, and Winston is still in the same spot in front of the TV, sound asleep, not asleep. And it was just odd the way he was laying. The way he was laying was not 100% natural. And I went over to him and touched him. He had clearly crossed. So I was so upset. I was so angry. I was hurt. So I'll share that little bit of it as well. And then the guilt kicked in. Like, why did I have to go? I don't have to go to work. Why did I have to go to work? Why did I leave him? Why did I not just stay with him? Why did I not see that he was ready to cross? How did me, who does this all the time as my vocation, how did I not know that he was ready to cross? How did I not feel it? So I racked myself with guilt and grief and remorse, and then the anger kicked in for my husband, right? So don't worry, we're going to a place where this all calms down. I was so angry at him. How could he sit there eating his lunch and not see that my little baby had crossed, or that my little baby was in pain, or that he was struggling or suffering? How could he just sit there eating his stupid plate of nachos? Those were all the words that came out of my mouth. And then I got to take a step back. So I scooped Winston up. First of all, I scooped Winston up, and I'm just hugging him and wondering why he didn't let me be with him when he crossed, and beating myself up over not being there. So I shared this story for a reason, because I want to release you of the guilt. I want to release you of that trauma. I want to forgive you. I don't need to forgive you. You need to forgive you. Your animal companion has already forgiven you. In fact, this is where I do the little look up here for the other video about forgiveness. There's a great little video that I've done on how to forgive yourself, if you still need it after this is over, because wait till, this is what came through to me. All these thoughts are coming through about sharing the story of Winston, because for this Chihuahua, here is what he shared with me. He did not die alone. He did not die alone. And oh my gosh, the insight that he gave to me for any of you who need this. It was not just an angel who was with him when he crossed. Number one, he didn't suffer. He felt no pain. He actually gave me this visual that he glided right to the Rainbow Bridge. He did not die alone, and your waking self, and if you guys can go down this little rabbit hole with me, I promise you this is what he shared with me. Your waking self didn't have the capacity to deal with his crossing. Your waking self, and so you fell asleep. That was your way of coping. It was your way of dealing. But he did not die alone, because your soul, your spirit, deep breath, your inner being, your higher self, that part of you that is like from heaven, that's who went to be with him. You fell asleep so that your physical body didn't have to be there, but your spiritual body was. He knows you were there. He saw you, he felt you, he knew you were there. He had everything he needed. Let's just see. I can't understand some of my writing. That you were with him. You made his transition smooth. He saw and felt, all he felt and saw was a profound sense of well-being. He was filled at the time of his crossing with a profound sense of well-being. It was like your angelic self was there. And that's what he really wants you to know, that you were with him, that just because your sleeping physical body was not with him does not mean you weren't there, and that he felt your presence. He knew your love. You helped him to transition, even if it was subconsciously. And so he glided to the other side, and he's still by your side right now. He wants you to know, just like I've said this so many times, they don't leave us just because they've left their little physical body. He wants to be your guide. He wants to whisper in your ear. He wants you to call on him whenever you need a little reassurance. More than anything else, all of our animals, when they cross, want us to know that we can release the guilt and the grief and the remorse, and that they don't suffer, and that he had the smoothest transition, the most beautiful space. He was in a beautiful space when he crossed, and I got a sense that there's no reason for you to carry this burden and for you to feel this pain. Okay, so that's what I had to share for now. Now, that message was a really personal one for the person who reached out to me, but I feel like so many of us, for different reasons, me with my Winston, whoever your animal companion may be, this little Chihuahua here, something happens at the time of their death, or we think about how we would have done things differently, how we would have handled things differently. We might have taken them to the veterinarian sooner. We might have been more diligent in giving them medication. We might have been more observant. I might have not gotten so wrapped up in my day that I could have felt when it was time for Winston to cross. And I want to share one more little thing about Winston. When Winston crossed, I thought that he and I had a deal that he would allow me to cross with him. And the other part of the angst for me was that Winston crossed within a week of my Lucy. So Lucy was planned. Lucy was, her and I together with our veterinarian made her transition something that we chose. And we helped her through, and we had a little ceremony, and everything went so beautifully and so peacefully and smoothly. And I swear that's one of the reasons why these doors opened for me, because on the day of her transition, the most amazing experience, it was, I can only call it that, it was an amazing experience. And what I got from Winston, when I really had the chance then to sit down and quiet my mind and feel with my heart what he had to share with me, he saw how easy it was for Lucy to cross, and he knew that he didn't have to suffer. He knew that he could just go, and that's what he did. And it's why I was able to forgive my husband as well for sitting there as Winston crossed without even recognizing it, because Winston just crossed. Winston saw how easy it was and peaceful it was for Lucy, and he chose to just go. And so I could not fault him for that decision. I could not fault him for that. And it was me who was carrying around unnecessary hurt. And so we did the Ho'oponopono practice. That is another video, and I can post the link for that one in the comments, because that one is a really helpful one as well. The Hawaiian practice of forgiveness. And I was able to forgive myself, Winston, my husband. It was all beautiful. And it's a beautiful way that you can help forgive yourself as well. And yeah, as part of it is that we hold our animals accountable too. We're like, why did you leave me? Why did you fill me with so much hurt? Ho'oponopono is a beautiful way to get past that and to create this beautiful space of peace in your heart for your animal companion who has crossed. Okay, that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. More to come on the 5 ways that you can connect with your animal companion, and more readings as well. Have a beautiful, wonderful, amazing day wherever you happen to be in the world. May the animals light your way. Take care.